There are things in the sky that don't blink, that don't roar, that don't belong. For decades, we've been told they're just weather balloons, camera glitches, optical illusions. But what if they weren't? What if something is really up there, watching, moving, waiting? This isn't science fiction. This isn't blurry video from a conspiracy forum. This is real footage, captured by military-grade sensors, released quietly by the Pentagon. No explanation, no press conference, just a silent admission. We don't know what this is. Tonight, you'll see what they saw, an orb that defies physics, a shape that leaves no trace, a presence that doesn't ask permission to be here. This is more than a sighting, it's a message, and if you look close enough, you might feel it watching back. Deep beneath the Pentagon's surface, behind doors with no names, there exists a room where the lights are never off. No signs, no windows, just silence and screens. This is where the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, known simply as AARO, observes the skies. Its mission sounds simple: analyze what can't be explained. Not airplanes, not satellites, not balloons mistaken for something more. No, AARO is tasked with decoding the unnatural, the things that twist through air with no wings, the ones that disappear mid-flight and reappear somewhere else. But for years, they only spoke of the mundane. They showed the public birds, drones, flares, always with calm voices and confident answers. It's nothing, they said, and then locked away the rest. Yet inside AARO Vault, some footage was different. Footage that didn't behave, didn't follow physics, didn't fit any explanation. And in early 2023, one such recording slipped through the cracks. The sky was calm that morning. A U.S. reconnaissance drone glided over the desert, its sensors tuned to thermal contrast, heat against cold, life against lifelessness. Then a flicker. A small, searing dot bloomed into view, faint at first, then sharper, brighter. The thermal camera tracked it instinctively, as if the machine itself knew this was not normal. It was too small to be a jet, too fast for a bird, too irregular for a balloon. The drone's operator leaned forward. Eyes narrowed, hands froze. Because this thing, whatever it was, moved like it wasn't bound by gravity. It darted left, then halted, then snapped right at an angle no aircraft could survive. No wings, no tail, no smoke, no sound, just a sphere of heat. Glowing, pulsing, a perfect orb. It glided across the screen, not flying, but floating as though air itself bent around it. Each motion it made was too sharp, too intentional, too alive. And yet there was no cockpit, no engine, no propulsion trail to follow. It was an object with no logic, no known origin, and no reason to exist. The operator followed in silence. The camera trembled with each sharp turn. Even the military systems, designed for chaos, could barely keep up. What they were watching was not supposed to be real. The orb didn't just move, it danced. Like a predator testing the edge of vision, it played with the drone's camera darting across the frame, pausing just long enough to be seen, then vanishing in sharp, impossible angles. It didn't glide smoothly. It jerked as if pulled by unseen threads. Each movement seemed to ignore inertia. No gradual turns, no banking curves, just instant acceleration, instant stops. To a pilot, the G-forces would have been lethal. Bones crushed, blood pushed from the brain, but the orb didn't care. It moved with the confidence of something that had never known resistance. The drone's AI tracking system stuttered. The crosshairs tried to lock on, but couldn't, and behind the screen the operator whispered the first word since it began. "What is that?" The object looped once, reversed direction in midair, then shot upwards against gravity with no visible thrust. No jet, no rotor, no flame, it just went. Even stranger, it slowed mid-flight, hovered, then drifted like a feather caught in a magnetic field. It wasn't showing off, it was just being, and somehow that was more terrifying. As the thermal lens stayed locked, a strange pattern began to form behind the orb. A whisper of heat trailing in its wake like a ghost, thin, curling, and fading fast. It wasn't smoke, it wasn't exhaust, it was something else. Some analysts later suggested this was ionized air, the mark of an electromagnetic drive, a propulsion system humans had only dreamed of. Such engines leave no fuel signature. Only a pocket of charged particles, heat without fire. And that's exactly what this was. A smear of warmth hanging in the sky for seconds, then disappearing like breath on a mirror. At each sharp turn, the trace appeared again, small, distinct, lingering just long enough to be recorded. Yet no machine made by humans could replicate this behavior without noise, flame, or structure. The orb had none of these. Its surface, if it had one, was perfectly smooth. No bolts, no panels, no markings, just pure, seamless geometry. It looked less like a vehicle and more like an idea made real. Was it scanning the ground, responding to the drone, or simply observing like an eye in the sky? No one knew. But in that silence, in that trail of ghost heat, lay the undeniable truth: it wasn't ours. Far across the ocean, on the other side of the world, the same shape appeared again. In the skies above New York, and later above the quiet suburbs of New Jersey, witnesses saw orbs like the one in the military footage. Small, glowing, alive, but this time it wasn't just thermal cameras, it was people. Ordinary citizens, parents, students, sky watchers with smartphones and cheap telescopes. And what they captured was identical. An orb that hovered, spun slowly, then shot upward in a burst of impossible speed. No wings, no lights, no roar of engines, just silence and a flash. Over time, the sightings began to repeat. Different cities, different weeks, but the same pattern: sudden appearance, erratic, intelligent movement, no sound, no trace. The orbs didn't just fly, they behaved. They paused near cell towers, hovered over water, flickered just outside radar range, as if they knew how we saw them. And yet, they never stayed long, never landed, never spoke. Just a moment, a glimpse, and they were gone. Was it one craft, or many? Were they connected? Or were we witnessing a silent network of watchers scattered across the planet? The pattern could no longer be ignored. This wasn't a glitch. It was a phenomenon. In most military footage, aircraft are easy to read. A plane has wings, a helicopter has blades, a drone emits hums, pulses, blinking lights. But this orb, nothing, no structure, no signature, no technology humans could understand, and yet it moved with intention. When the military zoomed in, they expected blur, distortion, noise. Instead, they saw something terrifying in its clarity, a shape too perfect. It was symmetrical, rounded, like liquid metal frozen mid-motion. It gave off heat, yes, but not from engines, not from friction. It radiated heat from every direction, as if it wasn't a machine but an energy source, compact, self-contained, timeless. The longer they watched, the less it looked like a vehicle. It looked like an eye, an ancient one, watching back, and still no answers. Scientists debated endlessly: plasma ball, thermal ghost, experimental drone. But each theory collapsed under the same problem. None of them explained how it moved. Not the turns, not the speed, not the silence. There were no moving parts. No fuel trails, no sonic booms, just the hum of the thermal feed and the quiet pulse of something that was never meant to be seen. Behind locked doors, in rooms without windows, the footage played again, and again, and again. Generals leaned forward, scientists whispered, technicians rewound the video in silence. It was not the first time the military had seen something strange, but it was the first time they didn't know what to call it. Some officials called it an anomaly. Others called it a trick of the camera. But no one could explain the way it moved, like it knew it was being watched. It didn't flee. It didn't attack. It just hovered, then drifted away just beyond the edge of understanding. Reports were filed, charts drawn, data studied. But each time they tried to classify it, something didn't fit. Too small to carry a pilot, too smart to be random, too smooth to be natural, too real to ignore. Eventually, a statement was crafted, careful, cold, precise. Due to the absence of corroborating telemetry or multimodal sensor data, AARO cannot determine whether the observed signature represents a sensor artifact or a thermal emission from a physical source. In other words, we don't know what it is, and we don't want to say it's real. But those who had seen it with their own eyes, those who had tracked it, studied it, felt it, knew something deeper. This wasn't a glitch. It was a visitor. And the only question now was, from where? In a quiet home in Los Angeles, surrounded by dusty prints and old NASA relics, an aging scientist sat by a photograph. It showed the surface of Mars, reddish, barren, except for one small signature, a chemical reaction. In 1976, Dr. Gilbert Levin had run an experiment, the label release test, to detect life on the red planet. The result? Positive. Something had responded. Something had metabolized. Something was alive. The team celebrated. Champagne bottles popped. They signed their names across the photo, proof that life existed beyond Earth. But days later, NASA silenced them. They called the results inconclusive. The data was buried, the headlines rewritten, and Levin was left with a cork, a signature, and a truth no one wanted to hear. Now, decades later, his son sat among those same artifacts, watching the orb footage on a dimly lit screen, and he whispered the words his father once believed. They've always known. From Mars to the Middle East, from the dusty soil of a distant planet to the sky just above our heads, the signs were always there. But the truth was always too big to accept. For years, the footage sat sealed, inside servers the public would never touch. Why release it now? Was it a mistake, a leak, a warning, or perhaps a test? AARO gave no answers, only an 8-minute clip with no context, no name, no conclusion. A puzzle dropped into the hands of the public. Experts pointed out the wording in the release. Exhibited characteristics that may be consistent with the presence of a physical object. Carefully chosen, nervous, shielded. But between the lines, something bled through. They didn't know what it was, and they could no longer hide that fact. Maybe they hoped people wouldn't notice, or maybe, just maybe, they wanted us to see just enough, not everything. A glimpse behind the curtain, like a whisper from behind a locked door. Yes, you were right to wonder. In the final seconds of the footage, the orb slowed. Its movement, once chaotic, became steady. Purposeful, it hovered above empty land, a featureless stretch of sand and shadow. Then, without sound or signal, it rose, straight upward. No tilt, no thrust, just ascent, effortless, silent, pure, and then it vanished. Not in a flash, not in smoke, not in fire, it simply stopped being visible. The screen returned to static. The data file ended, but something lingered. An aftertaste, an echo, the sense that the orb had seen us and let us see it, not by accident, but by design. What if it wasn't a probe? What if it wasn't a ship? What if it was? A signal, a message, sent in motion, not in words. We're here, we've always been here, and we're watching back. And for the first time in decades, the watchers in the sky, the orbs that leave no trail, no explanation, no comfort, were no longer hiding. They released one video, just one. A silent orb, no wings, no sound, no explanation. But if they chose to show us this, what else are they still hiding? How many more are watching us from above? How long have they been here? And if they wanted to speak, would we even know how to listen? The sky is no longer empty. It never was. Now we want to hear from you. What do you think this orb really is? A probe, a warning, or something else entirely? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like this video if you felt that chill down your spine. Subscribe to X Site for more stories the world isn't ready to tell, because we're just getting started. And next time, they might come closer.